What's up, Hootats? Welcome into a football therapy session here on Inside Black and Gold.
For shame.
5 straight losses now and a just debilitating, disgraceful, disgusting loss. Thursday night football, good old primetime stage with old friend Sean Payton in town, of course. And the night poor Drew Brees picked a terrible game to get inducted into the Hall of Fame.
You could say that. What better game? What way? I mean, unless they did it week 1, there was no way. It was
should have just done it
bad.
at the start of the season against the Panthers, man.
I mean, like, you talk about hope, right? What hope? Like, where's the hope? How do you have hope? It's cold now. Like, the only thing we had going for us was it wasn't below 60 degrees. Now it's cold. Now I'm wearing a jacket all the time. Oh man,
that's the good news is at least it's gumbo weather now.
Yeah, I think the title of our last podcast was like, "Can't let Sean Payton win the breakup." He won the breakup. I mean, how? Well, we're going to talk a lot about it. It was bad. It was unacceptable is the word that comes to mind. Pathetic at points. Like,
I've tried to reach out to local shamans, witch doctors, whatever, to release whatever gree-gree's been put on this team.
It's wild how quickly they've gone from a team that looked at least capable of winning to, I think Bobby would say, the JV squad. Like, they don't look competitive even. Like, they don't look like they belong in the same league. If this was soccer, this was like the Premier League, they'd get relegated. Like, that's how bad they are right now. And I don't know. So we're going to talk about it. There's the stock up segment might be the shortest stock up segment in the history of stock up segments, but we are still going to do it. There were a couple of good things that happened. So that's going to be the second segment. It's going to be very short, and we're going to spend a lot of time in the mailbag going through as many comments and questions as y'all have. This is our 4th pod of the week, which we don't usually do 4 pods, but this is the Thursday week. So, we've gone through a lot. We'll talk more about injuries. We'll talk more about that. Obviously, the stock down segment is going to be long. We talk about injuries, man. Paulson Adebo broke his freaking femur.
I feel like an injury podcast is a whole separate identity.
Man, if there was ever a need for like an in-house like doctor to just tell us what the hell is going on, it's this season. Like, your femur's like the strongest bone in your body. How does that even happen? Like, that's got to be painful. Like, the wild thing is that, like, when Paulson went off the field, I wouldn't have assumed it was something like that because he didn't look like he was in that much pain. I wonder if he was in shock because, like, he wasn't like I was there. Like, I couldn't hear him. He wasn't yelling. Like, you would think, hey, you would be screaming in agony. He was kind of just calm.
And then he gave the crowd the thumbs up too, and it's like, thumbs up.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was just, it was just so kind of casual.
Broken, I doubt I'm giving a thumbs up.
Like, he didn't even put a towel over his head. He was just like, and you feel for the guy. And we'll get into the stock down, but like, I know there's been a lot of distaste for the penalties and some of the issues Paulson has had in coverage this year. You gotta, prayers up for that guy, because that's, one of the reasons that guys don't want to play on a contract year is because stuff like this happens. Because he was in line for a legitimate payday. Like, it probably wasn't going to come from the Saints, but some team, like, you look at that Bears tape from last year, some team was going to watch that Bears tape from last year and like, okay, get that guy in the building. We'll coach him up. We'll fix this penalty issue. He makes plays. He picks off the ball. He runs it back. He forces fumbles. Like, he has made plays in his career, like that fumble against the Chiefs. Like, that was him. Like, he had a penalty, and he came right back, forced a fumble, and Colin Saunders is the beneficiary. We talked about Colin Saunders, it was Paulson who forced that fumble. So, that's a shame for him. I mean, he'll play again. He's not done, but he's going to probably, that 3-4 year contract that was going to be kind of probably like a $40-50 million deal in like the range of these players have been getting. He's not getting that now.
Between obviously the rash of injuries we've seen this season, and then it confirmed it last night too, Jeff, the fact that you had probably the biggest, easiest interception of Tyrann Mathieu' career. How does that happen? How does that happen to this dude that I know is like an apex predator at picking off the ball and has these great hands? And it's just amazing. It's things like that this season that have been happening though.
It was almost too easy. Like it was like it was almost like, he threw it right to me. And that's the thing. Like, we'll talk a lot about this. We're gonna talk about the defense. We're gonna talk about the run defense. We're gonna talk about whatever.
Defense.
Bo Nix is not good.
No.
Like, that was something that became very clear to me throughout the course of that game. Like, that is not a good quarterback. If you had league average quarterback playing that game, and like he might develop into something. I'm not saying he has no chance to be a decent NFL quarterback. He's not good right now. Like, he had 4 or 5 passes. It looked like he was a shortstop just trying to like bounce the ball to the first baseman, right? Like, it was like the Jeter jump where he kind of throws it and it's like you're not trying to get it there on the air because you could be more accurate if you just kind of bounce it. That's how it looked like he was throwing the ball to guys. And he can run. He made some really nice plays with his legs. But like if you had a competent quarterback in there, if you had Jarrett Stidham in there, that might have been a 50-point game. Like, that's how bad it was. And
it was pretty evident. You laugh at the fact of the quote of Sean Payton now, comparing Bo Nix to Drew Brees. And from what I saw last night, there is no way in hell he'll ever have close to having the accuracy of Drew Brees.
No, I mean, like, the Saints made the Broncos look like a Super Bowl contender in that game, but like, again, the quarterback was not the reason. Like, the quarterback is what kept that game reasonable. And I put reasonable in air quotes because it wasn't close, but it was at least not like 50-3. Yeah, like the score line shows a game that like you would assume, hey, maybe they had a chance in this game. They didn't have a chance in this game. Offense never generated anything, but
I do look like the good dad this morning. I told my son to put Javonte Williams in his fantasy football lineup, and I got a big plus there.
If there's a running back going against the Saints, put Audric Estime in your fantasy lineup. Like, It doesn't matter who it is. They are going to go off. Like, Javonte Williams has done nothing. Baby. This was the number 29 rushing attack. But first things first, like the question everyone is asking, and it's the question Richard Sherman asked at halftime. So let's just hear what Richard Sherman had to say. And it was a talking point after the game. So let's hear it.
I'm confused. I'm vexed. I'm perplexed. I don't get it. They don't want to tackle. They don't want to make plays. These are good players. Tyrann Mathieu is a good player. Why the easiest interception of his life to send him to number 36 and he drops it? I see guys not have an effort to get to the ball carrier, to make tackles. Like, I don't understand this. It seems like they want to get their coach fired. That's the effort they're playing with. Then Dennis Allen, you call a timeout
to take a knee.
So we can watch your quarterback take a knee.
Yeah, we got stuff to do.
Do you want to torture these?
What is going on?
I mean, they're gonna be waiting at his car after this game.
Okay, we're gonna talk more about that timeout. But and here's the thing: like we asked Tyrann about this after the game. We asked Dennis about this after the game. They disagreed with him, but here's the thing, and I talked to Newell. I was on with Newell Normand this morning, and when I agreed to go on weekly with Newell after all these games, I did not think it was going to be this miserable. I thought we might be able to talk about some fun things. I'm like, it'll be a nice little daytime segment after a long night. I go to sleep at 3 a.m. I wake up, I talk to Newell, and we can say, that was fun, right? No, it was not fun. But he was asking, like, hey, what does he know? Like, why would he go out there and say that? And it's like, here's the thing, okay? Like, you need to understand that Richard Sherman doesn't watch the Saints every week, right? The thing about being on primetime, what makes these primetime games important is that's how you build your image. That is how you foster the image of your organization to people who aren't watching them religiously, people who aren't season ticket holders, for people who don't sit there at a bar and drink their way into just, a stupor because they're like, whatever, it's my team, I'm going to watch them. Like, a lot of people are watching the Saints for the first time. A lot of people have watched the Saints twice this year. One was on Monday night in Kansas City. The other time was last night in the Superdome against Sean Payton. And so that's the image, right? And so when you don't know, you're not paying attention to the injuries. You're not paying attention to all of this. And you might be aware of like, where's Derek Carr? Where's the receivers? Whatever. But what you're seeing is a team that looks incapable of playing quality football. A team that looks completely overmatched by an offense that should not be overmatching anybody. And so, you should question the effort, because what is it? What about Demario Davis and Tyrann Mathieu and all these guys is preventing them from stopping up Javonte Williams, from stopping the number 29th ranked rushing attack in the NFL? Because if it's not effort, then the other answer isn't better, because it just means you're not good enough. So what is it? Pick one. You can't have it both ways. Either you are good enough and you're not playing hard enough, or you're not good enough. You're playing as hard as you can and you don't have it. So like, you can get mad at what Richard's saying. You could say he doesn't know what he's talking about, but at the end of the day, neither answer is a good one. So he's just going with he's using Occam's razor here. He's saying, okay, this is, I'm just going with what's staring me in the face right now.
For me, just whatever output we're getting from the defensive line is not good at all. I mean, there is rushing lanes that you can drive whatever metaphor you want to put there, a bus, a truck, a garbage truck through, you're going to get yards. It's been ridiculous.
Yeah, and so I looked this up. So, actually, first, let's hear from Dennis Allen. He was asked specifically about Richard Sherman, his job status, and all that. So let's just hear that before we move on.
Richard Sherman had some pretty harsh words for the team on the broadcast at halftime. He said it doesn't look like they want to tackle. It doesn't look like they're putting in any effort. You said last week you still believe in the effort of this team. Do you believe that after watching the last 6 quarters?
Yeah. I don't agree with him.
So you think that the team was – there was no quit at any point?
No.
He also went on to say that the defense was playing like a team that, quote, wants its head coach fired. Is it something that you're concerned about at this time?
No.
No. And you're not going to get answers to those questions. Like you have to ask those questions. You know what he's going to say, but like I understand. Like the players, when you ask about effort, a lot of times you ask about like, hey, does the team support the head coach still? You're going to say, hey, we're playing for each other. We're doing whatever. That's what Alvin's going to say. We had some comments from Alvin. I have some clips here, but and then this is Alvin when he was asked, hey, does the team still support Dennis Allen?
Yeah, that's not a question for me to answer. I don't got nothing for that. You said the team, like as in the locker room. I mean, we're here. We go to work every day. We got to work. We just got to keep working and figure out what we got to do to put string wins together.
Yeah, and I don't know like how you look at this game and feel like, hey, this team is all bought in, but it doesn't look that way. Let's put it that way.
I think it's obviously really hard too when you hear in football, you look to the guy next to you, and you have to know that they can rely on you. You can rely on them. And I think with these injuries, a lot of key personnel obviously out right now, and sometimes the guy next to you I don't know that well and isn't capable of being that on the level you need to be a starter in the NFL. Obviously, there's some young dudes on this team that are trying to find their way and are being thrust into bigger roles. I know it happens. It's the NFL, blah, blah, blah. But you also have older veterans that may not still, have as much in the tank still. Just there's you look at each level of the offense and now defense too. You're just getting decimated with these injuries. It's brutal. And I just think obviously the talent level and then also the unfamiliarity with who you're playing with is another thing.
Yeah, I just think the issues with DA's coaching have kind of they're becoming so clear and clearer and clearer. And like even just simple stuff like, hey, are you going to go for it on 4th down or are you going to punt? Like you can't burn a timeout there. No, he wasn't. I meant to ask about this after the game. I kind of spaced and didn't ask. He wouldn't have answered it anyway. But like, did the crowd booing convince DA to go for it on 4th down?
That's a valid right there because that's how I was like, did the crowd do that?
Because it's like he called a timeout and then they thought better of it, which like the play they ran was absurd. Like if you're going to go for it, sneak it and get the 1st down. It's 4th and literally inches. Like a lot of times we'll say 4th and inches. I don't know if the ball could be any closer to the 1st down marker than it physically was. Like that's a sneak. What the hell are you doing with that weird throwback that barely worked? Because Spencer had to kind of lob it over a defender to Jawan Johnson.
It was not pretty.
If you can't just run a sneak there and get that 1st down, don't run the play. Don't give me that dink and dunk nonsense. And it was like, okay, so you screwed up there. Like, call a sneak, go line up quickly, go. Like, don't second guess it. And so you burned a timeout there. But then the weirdest timeout came before halftime. And this is what DA said about this situation.
Could you explain the sequence beforehand?
Well, look, we shouldn't have taken the time out is what we shouldn't have done. But we had 2 plays to try to see if we couldn't create something, and then, after having a couple of check downs and some pressure on the quarterback, it was like, let's take a knee, let's get out of the half, let's regroup and come back. We get the ball to start the second half. So I think initially the thought was, can we get a chunk play and maybe have an opportunity to create something? But if not, then let's get out of the half.
Did you call the timeout or did the player?
I'm not sure exactly who called the timeout, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if it was called on the field or not.
Guys, I get it. Weird stuff happens throughout the NFL game, throughout the course of an NFL game. As a head coach of an NFL team, you have to understand, I appreciate honesty as a media member. I appreciate you being honest with me. Some stuff you just don't need to tell people. Like, why would you volunteer that information? Just say, hey, it was a weird situation. We thought better of it. We decided not to run a play. Like, you don't have to lie. Just omit the fact that you have no idea what the hell happened, because that's terrible. That's like you want to portray an image of a tightly run ship. You don't even know who called a timeout before halftime? What? In what universe? You didn't even bother to find out? You were like, oh, a timeout got called. Weird. And you just moved on? What? Maybe you didn't want to throw somebody under the bus, but then don't bring it up. Don't answer the question. Like, say, hey, let's move on. Like, do anything else. Don't tell me you don't know who called a timeout for your team. And I had some people be like, oh, isn't the only person allowed to call a timeout the head coach? On the sideline, yes. The head coach is the only one who can call a timeout on the sideline. On the field, players can call timeouts. So what probably happened is the players on the field were like, oh, okay, we're in kind of hurry up mode. We have another timeout. We're going to use it, maybe take a shot. So I don't know if it was the quarterback, if it was Alvin, or if it was somebody who called a timeout, just kind of reflexively being like, okay, because you got to do it quick. You can't burn any time. But in reality, it was like, hey, they probably should have communicated beforehand. We aren't going to run another play if this doesn't work out. We're not going to just lay Alvin out to get blown up for no reason, which is what happened twice. But that's just an example of guys, this is not how an NFL team's supposed to operate. Can you imagine if someone just called a timeout on Sean and he was just like, I have no idea who called it? No, that would never happen. It would never in a million years happen. And if it did, we would never find out about it. And that's just the kind of the nuances of coaching. That's guy, you got to understand that. That's crazy to me. And yeah, maybe maybe being a little melodramatic about it, but it's the same principle of yeah, they ran a play I didn't call. They ran a play. The players went rogue on me. Keep that to yourself, dude. Save yourself from yourself. Anyway.
Yeah, it feels like I thought, seeing it again, maybe he was trying to not throw anyone under the bus, but then you got to say something to the fact, though. You can't say you don't know. You say that's between me and the player and we'll have a talk or something like that.
Right. I honestly don't know who called the timeout. What?
Right. What? What do you mean you don't know?
It's portraying the image of a coach that feels looks defeated. I made a comment last week. I keep waiting for DA to get mad. I feel like he got mad last year. I feel like a game like this last year, we would be like, I'm pissed off. He was doing it in a weird way, but you could tell he was angry. These last couple of weeks, it's just been resigned, defeated, quiet. We gotta get back. He kind of sounds like Mike Ditka, late in the Mike Ditka years, right? And I only know this because I've listened to Mike Ditka press conferences. But those last few Mike Ditka press conferences, it'd be like I'd fire me, And
he realizes there's no hope without McCoy and Hill.
It does feel that way, and that's the thing. It's you can you don't want to use excuses, but the injuries are legitimate. They're not. It's not a made up thing. It's wild how many players are missing, and you were already gonna. But there's a difference between losing a game because you got players out and losing a game because the players in don't have it. And we've gone too far on this, so let's just shift to some things that happened. You brought it up. One of my biggest critiques is we talk about injuries. We can talk about injuries all we want. The defensive line is healthy. That group is not dealing with injuries. They're just not getting the job done. You did not even touch Bo Nix in that game.
Right.
Once. I'm not even talking about get a sack. Literally just push him to the ground after he throws the ball. Get a penalty for all I care. At least prove to him that you exist. And you saw, if you put any modicum of pressure on him, he's going to make mistakes. And you did not even do that. And part of the reason is you couldn't stop the run, right? Again, if the other team has a running back with a pulse, he's going to go off on you. That's what's happened this season. In this game, Javonte Williams, 14 carries for 88 yards, 6.3 yards per carry. Bo Nix, 10 carries, 75 yards. Some of those were scrambles, but 7.5 yards per carry. Jaleel McLaughlin, 4 carries for 35 yards, 8.8 yards per carry. Javonte also had 2 touchdowns. Audric Estime,
Yes.
he did have a fumble, but 5 carries for 29 yards, and his fumble came after a long run. So that's 5.8 yards per carry. The best you were able to do was to hold a guy to 5.8 yards per carry. Audric Estime. Sounds like a character from like Twilight.
Yeah, I had to look that up definitely too. Am I looking at it wrong? Is it not Austin? It's Audric? What?
Anyway,
Again,
the
like
biggest issue
last week with the Tampa game, I had to look up names too. I was like, who the hell is running all over
We're-
the Saints right now?
the Saints are literally the kingmakers of like,
Yes.
who is that? All right, NFC Player of the Week.
Oh,
Like these guys are never going to impact another game as long as they live. They're just going to go off on the Saints for whatever they want to do. And the issue to me was like, okay, so the runs are a problem, but it's the first down runs that were, So you had on first down, so you had Bo Nix, 14 yards, Williams +7, Williams +5, Nix +4, Estime +4. Then you had a +2. So then Williams, first down, +8, touchdown. Williams for +13. Estime +7, Williams +1, McLaughlin +6, Williams +5, touchdown. So both touchdown runs were on first down. McLaughlin +10, Williams -2, and all of these run stops were Anthony Orgy on a run blitz. Estime +13, Estime -3, but it was a fumble recovery. So like you're talking about 16 first down runs in that game. Only 4 of them were held to less than 6 yards.
Gash City.
That math isn't right. Only 4 were held to less than 4 yards. But still, like you're talking about, if you're averaging 4 yards a carry, you can run for a first down without passing. Like you have to create some negative plays in the run game. And in this game, you had 2 tackles for loss on first down runs. One was that Willie Gay fumble forced, which you got to give him credit for that. He recovered it as well. And the other one is Anthony Orgy getting through on a run blitz. But like, that's easy offense. You made these guys look like stars.
Brzee had a rough game.
Who?
Brian Brzee.
He can't play the run. That's been my biggest issue with him. Is like he's a good pass rusher at defensive tackle, but he's not a 3-down defensive tackle. He can't play the run. He's a great athlete, but the length works against him, and he gets moved off the ball. And it's like you talk about like some teams you watch and you're like, ooh, 4th and 1. Can they run for it? Like you can always run on 4th and 1 against the Saints. When have they gotten like outside of like week 1 against the Panthers? When are they getting a stop? And again, these are your starters. This is not backups. Like we can talk about injuries all we want. These are the starting defensive tackles, defensive linemen, and they're just not getting the job done.
No, it's bad. And you see on the other side of the ball, you're like, I miss a guy like Shy Tuttle.
Well, Malcolm Roach.
Malcolm Roach, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, Shy Tuttle's in Carolina. We did play him this year, but he's in Carolina. No, anyway, okay. So, and it's not just the defense. And like it's hard to be super critical of the offense when all the players are missing. But like, you're not going to win games if the offense can't do anything. Like, I knew this was going to be a struggle. And once the defense started just getting gashed on the ground, it became very, very bleak in terms of you're definitely not putting up 30. But can you put up 18? Can you drive for field goals? Can you make this a field goal game? Win maybe 15-12, something like that? No. And I'm not going to be overly critical of Spencer Rattler. I don't think he played particularly well. And he hasn't handled pressure well, and that's what happened in the second half. The Bucs dialed up the pressure, and he didn't handle it well. The Broncos.
Why was the ball so slippery this week?
Well, that I feel bad for him on that first one. Well, so the fumble, it didn't count. The fumble that got called back, it was obviously offsides, and it was a bad snap because the defensive tackle got into the neutral zone and hit Connor McGovern as he snapped it. They probably should have just blown the play dead. And so he's trying to just kind of rescue it so he can get the ball downfield. And, he hits Alvin coming out, and then he gets the ball knocked out. And so that's not really on him because he's just trying to take advantage of a free play. Like he knew it was a free play. So in a situation, he's just trying to be able to throw it. Now, there was another play that I can't remember who the defensive or the linebacker was, but literally threw it right to him. I think it was the first drive of the game. He threw it into his hands and he dropped it. So he got rescued. Like if you just look at the line, he's 25 for 35, 172 yards. Like not terrible, not a nightmare line, but there should have been an interception there, and that's not accounting for the 2 fumbles. The first one,
Right.
like, and you can say, hey, you had an unblocked blitzer, and yeah, you did, but that's also on the quarterback. Like, you got to understand that you're part of the quarterback's job is IDing the pressure and understanding, hey, if this guy comes, we don't have anyone to block him, so I got to get the ball out hot. Like, that's your job as a quarterback. Like, and that's the thing. Like, people want to trash Derek Carr and pretend Derek Carr has no positive qualities. If Derek Carr's in that game, that's not a sack fumble because he sees that and he gets the ball out. And you're going to say, oh, he's the check down king. That's when you have to check the ball down. That's your job as a quarterback because the protection can't handle that guy. If he comes, there's no one to block him. Either you make him miss or you get the ball out. You can't stand there and let him hit you from behind. It's just that proprioception. It's understanding where people are. And, it's a rookie thing. Like, that's why playing a rookie is tough because they're not going to make all of those perfect checks. They're not going to ID the blitz every time, and you're going to get taken advantage of. And that's what happened there. So it's tough. And like, when you put a rookie in there, hey, they're going to blitz you. And if you can't handle it, they're going to keep blitzing you. And that's what happened. So it's tough. You learn from it. I do worry that you're getting to a stage in Spencer Rattler's young career where you're at risk of continuing to put him in situations where his just confidence is going to get eroded until you have this nub of the player that you thought you had and you never gave him a chance to actually succeed.
That was actually a question I had. Obviously, after that last drive for Haener getting that touchdown, do you maybe go with him if Derek's not ready? Do you go with Haener this week against the Chargers?
Yeah, and I want to talk more about Haener in the other segment because I think his final drive was one of the few things that went positively. So I don't want to waste it now.
I got you.
But no, you have to think about it. There's no way around it. Because I do think that he processes a little faster at this stage of his career, and that's like you talk about. Oh, he's only got one more year, but like he could see like the ball gets out of his hand a little faster. He seems to make checks to the line a little better. Because one of the things that was annoying is, hey, why didn't they move Spencer at all? What that was where he seemed to have the most comfort against the Bucs is when you were able to get him outside the pocket. He didn't do that really at all. You did it on the first play of the game, and he had that long completion to Foster Moreau. I don't know if you did it again. Right. Now the problem is you didn't extend any drives. Like, listen to these drives. First one started at their 8-yard line, 4 plays, 40 yards, punt. You had the ball for 1:58. Second one started at the New Orleans 32, 4 plays, 18 yards, fumble, 1:49. Next drive started at your 30, 3 plays, 5 yards, punt, minute and 10 seconds. Next drive started at your 21, 11 plays, 62 yards, field goal. That was 5 minutes, 33 seconds. That was the drive where you went for it on 4th down at your own 30. That's how desperate they were to get anything going in that game. Next drive started at your 30, 3 plays, 5 yards, end of half. That was the weird kind of phantom timeout drive. Next play, first drive of the second half. Next drive starts at your 30, 3 plays, 3 yards, punt, 51 seconds. Next drive starts at your 30 again, 3 plays, -1 yard, punt, minute and 31. Next drive starts at your 19, 8 plays, 47 yards, but you lost 25 on penalties. Punt, 2 minutes and 55 seconds. The next 2 drives, you started at the Denver. It was the only time in the game that was like, oh, the defense did something cool. You started at the Denver 48, 4 plays, 8 yards, turnover on downs, 56 seconds. Next drive, Denver 47, 6 plays, -1 yards, fumble to the house, 2 minutes and 4 seconds. That's when you pulled them. That's your offense. And it's like, one of the reasons that I think your defense plays like a demoralized group is when you go out there and you're like, this offense is not going to do anything. At a certain point, you do let go of the rope. And now the problem is we've seen it happen twice in 5 days.
It's like, here we're back on the field again.
Yeah. We mentioned the Tyrann Mathieu drop, the pass rush. But yeah, I mean, to me, the biggest question is, okay, how long do you let this go on before you have to make changes? And for now, I'm going to say I don't think the Saints are going to fire Dennis Allen this week. Like, I think it's not going to get better if you fire Dennis Allen. It's kind of like either it gets better or you steer completely into the skid and you're talking about, hey, we might pick in the top 5. But it's like kind of like either this group figures it out or they don't. Like, honestly, the worst case scenario is you fire Dennis Allen, you win 5 games in a row, and then you miss the playoffs anyway. And then you're kind of back to square one to begin with. And you don't even have a good draft pick to show for it. So I kind of feel like this is a situation where either the group you have figures it out or they don't, and you go from there. You may have already, mentally, you may have already decided, hey, this guy's not going to coach another season here, and we're just going to see if we can ride this out. But to me, I kind of look at it like you got 10 days, man. You got 10 days, figure out what you can figure out. Go out to LA. I think you're going to go out there early. You're going to set up early. And if you can go out there and win a game and you can get this thing back on track, great. If you don't, I feel like you're kind of in the Brandon Staley situation last year. If you go out there and you get blown out by a Chargers team that probably you should be on par with, then that probably does do it. That probably does stick a fork in it. And I don't know how you can look past the results all you want. I don't know how you can do that in this situation. So I kind of think this is the rubber meets the road situation right here. You got 10 days, get as healthy as you can, go out there and play with some pride, or a lot of things change.
With going against a Harbaugh team, they're going to run the ball down your throat, and how's this D line going to cope with that? We've seen like I was saying, the lanes are just glaringly wide open, and if I can see them, I mean, it just all around. I'm confused on just who's doing what even on that D line anymore, because it's been a mess. And like you mentioned, it's like that's a group that is not been ravaged by the injury bug. You look at, obviously, you miss a guy like Pete Werner out there tackling. I get that at the linebacker position. Actually, Anthony Orji didn't have that bad of a game this time around.
No, I thought he was fine.
But now the secondary, holy crap, Adebo, Lattimore, hopefully his hamstring issue isn't too serious. But I don't know. The D-line to me has been a huge letdown. I don't get what's going on with some of the guys in, we talked up Chase Young so much during training camp, and I don't. Seems like you just run at the dude and you're fine. You're by him. He's not gonna. He's terrible against the run. Maybe as bad as Brzee.
Yeah, he just get. I don't know. It's tough to even figure it out. But yeah, like that's the thing. Like if you can't. One of the reasons you can't really use the injuries as an excuse is the injuries are not the reason your defense can't stop the run. And you're a defensive head coach, so you have to answer for that. You can't say, yeah, we'll fire the defensive coordinator. We'll fire Joe Woods and we'll figure it out. You already did that. You already tried that. Didn't work. Like Ryan Nielsen, you moved on from him, right? Chris Richard, you moved on from him. Those were your co-defensive coordinators year one. So you rebuilt that staff. Like you got what you were asking for on that front. You don't get to do it twice. So if the answer is our defense isn't good enough and our scheme isn't good enough and we need to reset, then that's got to start with DA. So either that gets better or it doesn't. There's no.
I've been wondering, like, how's Brian Young, the pass rush specialist, stuck around so long?
Oh, come on, this isn't about Brian Young.
I'm just saying, like, between the run and the lack of being able to stop the run and they're getting no pressure. Bo Nix definitely sat back there and was like, no, okay, over here, cool, I'm going to throw it, and then still couldn't complete it.
Yeah. No, it's tough. Like I don't know what Brian Young even does throughout the course of the week. I don't know what his responsibilities are, so I'm not going to sit here and trash Brian Young, but the entire coaching staff is up for criticism when you have a game like that and when you have back-to-back games like that.
But like you mentioned, DA is the defensive coordinator. He is the head of the team too, so that squarely falls on him. And then I don't get it. I thought that they wouldn't. There would be improvement in the run defense from a year ago, but it might have gotten worse. It's definitely gotten worse.
It has gotten worse. There's no question. I mean, look at it. Like, anyway, so let's wrap this segment up. We've been going for 30 minutes. We're gonna have a lot more to talk about. I do want to come back and talk about a couple things that I liked, just to cut through the misery for a second. Even those are bad. Even those are like, well, this is a problem, but at least you have some glimmer of hope in a few spots. And so we'll talk about that. We're going to come back. Then we'll have a mailbag in the final segment. I've already gone through, trying to star as many comments as I can. There's a lot in there, so we'll get to as many as we have. I also want to hear from Demario Davis, because I thought he had a, I don't even know if it was a good answer, but it's definitely what he said to the locker room. He basically just answered my question with the speech he was just about to go give the locker room. So I do want to hear that, because I think that is the messaging. And so it'll give you an idea of what this team is kind of rallying around, or at least trying to rally around, going forward. But this is Inside Black and Gold. I'm Jeff Nowak. He's Steve Geller. Been a long week. It only gets longer from here. Friday morning post-game podcast. At least the good news, the Saints can't hurt you. That's the first bit of good news that I have for you in the upcoming Stock Up segment. The Saints can't hurt you this weekend. You get to go watch football without the threat of violence from your own family.
I don't even want to watch football anymore.
I do. I just want to go watch football and not have the misery that comes along with like having hope. Because I know the Giants aren't going to win. That's my secondary hope. They're just like the Saints. I don't even know why I'm looking forward to it. They're going to get boat raced by the Eagles, and like they always do. And anyway, but I'm going to get drunk. I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to pretend the Saints don't even exist. That's what I'm going to do on Sunday.
I was hoping the Yanks would give me some happiness, and then they had that miserable collapse last night.
They do what they do. Anyway, who dat? Thanks y'all for hanging out. I know this isn't fun, but we'll get through it. Again, mailbag coming in the final segment. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about a couple things that I thought were good, not great, but okay. And that's that. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Apple Podcasts. Hit me up on Twitter if you want. If you want to complain, tell me I'm a moron. Everyone thinks that I'm a Rattler hater or whatever. Do that, and we'll get through it. I promise. All right, who dat? We'll be right back. All right, and we are back on Inside Black and Gold, another post-game misery podcast brought to you by yours truly, Jeff Nowak and Steve Geller. I stood on the sideline throughout that entire travesty of a game, and I've done it twice in the last week, and it's hard to see it getting better. But hey, we're gonna sit here, and we did the dud segment, and as we do, we're gonna do a stud segment. Now, stud, I don't even know if stud's the right word. It's just not the worst, that thing that happened. And
my wife's calling me. I got to miss this segment. Sorry.
Are you serious?
No, I'm kidding. It was like I don't know what to say about
like,
positives.
Steve,
I'm just joking.
Where is your dedication to your craft? But okay, there was one player on the Saints defense that I felt like if you made it all out of this guy, you would have a chance, and that's Alontae Taylor. Like, there was one drive in that game that it was like, if it was up to the other 10 guys on this defense, they would walk in for a free touchdown. One of those 1 yard runs that we were talking about on first down, it was just Alontae like standing up Javonte Williams at the line of scrimmage. And like, obviously you can't have 11 Alontae Taylors on a defense because you need defensive linemen and guys who can go in the middle and win the line of scrimmage. But like, if everyone on that defense was playing with the level of effort he was playing with, I think you would have a better team. And that drive, he locked up Javonte on that first down run. Then he locked up Lil Jordan Humphrey on a throw to the end zone. It was great coverage. Broncos had to settle for a field goal. Like, they did whatever they wanted on that drive other than those two plays. And so, like, I don't know where you go from here. I don't know what this season's going to look like over the final month plus. You're not cutting the entire roster. You're going to have to, whatever you do, build around a core of players. Like, even if you do what people have been asking for a while now and tear it down, burn everything down, fire the coaching staff, bring in a whole new personnel department, whatever, you're going to have to build around something. And I feel like Alontae Taylor, what we saw this year, whether it's as a slot corner, whether it's as an outside corner, he's one of the best things you have going for you on defense. He's a young player. He's on a rookie deal. I just think the energy he plays with is what you need. And so a lot of things went wrong for the Saints on defense. He's a guy that, again, however this ends up looking over the final month or so of the season, he's going to be a big part of it.
Another dude on the defense for me, Jeff. I love what I bashed the defensive line that last segment, but man, I still do appreciate Carl Granderson. I know he's given max effort out there, but it just seems I feel like he's the only guy at times.
I guess I haven't seen him make much of an impact on the passer. I mean, the ends have generated pressure. That hasn't been the issue. It's just they haven't gotten sacks, and that's been the case for 2 years. So, I don't hate Carl. Like,
No, right.
I don't think Carl is the biggest issue with this defense, but he's also, like you paid him like he's your star pass rusher. You did, and he hasn't. Like, I need him to make a bigger impact on games. Like Chase too, but Carl's the one on the multi-year deal. Carl's the one that you kind of looked at as saying, okay, he's taken over for Cam, and you're looking at him, and so I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think like.
For at least you want to talk about someone with the motor, the no quit. I definitely see that out of Carl at least, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense of like, in the sense of like, hey, who's gonna be the core of your defense if you kind of reset and tried to do something different? I agree. He would be a piece of that too. Yeah. Anyone else you want to mention before we move on?
Trying to think. Like, not really. Not really defensively, at least. Not defensively.
Yeah. I mean, cool. The young players, I'm not going to criticize. Like, I thought Rico Payton made some nice plays on special teams. He got some run at the end of the game there with when Marshawn went out. You might need him, and I don't know what the deal is with Marshawn. We'll see. He's dealt with hamstring injuries before, and that have kept him out for a while. So it's not like a new thing. And you're not getting a Debo back, so maybe Rico Payton's the guy you end up having to look at. You're starting DBs next in week 8. Could be Kool-Aid and Rico. Think about that.
Why do they draft these corners?
Yeah, right. Well, it's like, they keep drafting corners. They don't need them. Anyway, okay. Moving forward, one guy that I thought on offense had some juice was the guy who, for whatever reason, they just didn't play more.
That was a positive.
Kendra Miller, and this is exactly what we saw in Week 18. Like, I love me some Alvin. He can't make guys miss in the hole in the backfield. Like, I've been like, he doesn't do it. Like, I just don't know if he has that kind of first step like he used to have, because he's getting taken down in the backfield. Then you put Kendra in there, and he makes someone miss, and he generates positive yardage, right? Like, even there was a screen that it got blown up, and he just like jumped over a guy. It should have been a 4-yard loss. Instead, it was a 3-yard gain. Those are the type of plays you're not getting in the run game. They put Kendra in there. He immediately ran for 8 yards, and then he didn't see the field again for like, a quarter and a half. And I asked DA if he was on a snap count. DA didn't really answer me, but he did say something positive about Kendra, which is rare. So let's hear what he had to say.
I thought he played well. I thought the plays, when we handed him the ball, I thought he did some good things. I wish we would have caught the one ball over the middle. But I was impressed with what I saw out of Kendra. I think that's a guy that can help us.
He was your leading rusher in that game.
Welcome back.
No, that's why it's so frustrating. Like, I get it. You might not feel like he's necessarily picking up the offense. Maybe there's effort issues. I don't know. But 6 carries for 36 yards, 6.0 yards per carry. The only guy who didn't generate yards in the rushing game was Alvin. He had 7 carries for 10 yards, 1.4 yards per carry. Like, and I get it. The run game has not been good. The run blocking has not been good. But you had Kendra Miller with 6 carries for 36 yards. You had Jamal Williams with 3 carries for 17 yards. Your running backs ran for what? 40, 50, 63 total yards, and 53 of those yards came from Kendra Miller and Jamal Williams. So what's the deal? Like, what are you going to do here? And again, like, I think I said this last week, I think there's a point where you're sacrificing the Alvin Kamara you need for the Alvin Kamara you have right now. And I just don't think he's physically right there right now, because I don't see the guy we saw in weeks 1 and 2. I don't. And whether that's the rib issue that's slowing him down, whether it's the, whatever else, like, I need more Kendra Miller. I need the youth. I need the player that if you have something there, you see it. Like, I need you to at least find out what you have in that guy. And it can't be about like, man, he's not, if he's playing well, play him. Like, you do not have the luxury of saying, hey, we're going to go with the guy that we like better. Like, who's playing better? Play that guy.
I'm glad you brought that, because I was like, really, in this segment, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about positive for the offense. Kendrick,
I can always find something.
That was definitely something that you've been waiting to see. Like you mentioned, it's like, damn, last year, we saw a little bit of a flash of it. Unfortunately, with the whole training camp BS, the worst hamstring injury and the history of hamstring issues, and then getting caught up to speed, whatever it was in this offense, and not being able to get on the field at all. Just that little glimpse of him this week. Yeah, some hope forward for this run game that's been pretty abysmal without Taysom and Kendra, just relying on Alvin too much. And it's definitely been just all over an ugly season from the aspect with that running back room, which started out nice, but once the injury started, it was like when there was no one else, Jamal Williams and Jordan Mims were not the answer, apparently, when those guys went down to help Alvin out at all, because he just shouldered way too much of that load in those last couple, 3-4 games.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just so little has worked on offense that when you see something that's like, wow, that has juice. Like, it's the same.
Yeah.
Like, I had the same feeling watching it this week that I did in week 18. It was like, that's what a run game looks like.
Finally, right.
It's something like you would love if this team could just block and create lanes for the running back there. But at a certain point, you just need to create. And I feel like Kendra can do that. So hopefully, and that the comments from DA weren't exactly like, oh my God, he's a revelation. But when you kind of go back and listen to some of the other comments from DA on, I don't even know if he can learn the offense and blah, blah, blah. That's about as ringing of
definitely frustration there, right?
Yeah, it's about as ringing of endorsement as you could have. One more thing, and this is something I was getting into people with about on social media, is that last drive from Jake Haener. I get it, garbage time, whatever. Were the Broncos playing all of their starters? No, but they were playing about half their starters. It's not like people are talking about it like this is a preseason game in the fourth quarter, and you have the guys you're going to cut. You only have 53. You only have 48 guys on your active roster. There's only so many players you can put in that are not starters, right? People are talking about it like it's the 80 through 90 slots on your roster. No, you have 48 guys. A lot of those guys are offense. So I mean, there's the guys you have on the field, even the second stringers are still guys that play. The defensive tackles in the game at that point were Malcolm Roach and Jordan Jackson. You think those guys were just drive the field on us? No, these guys are prideful. They used to play here. You had several, the starting DBs, right? The starting linebackers, they're out there. The last two plays of that drive, Jake Haener dealt with a zero blitz.
As I say, heavy pressure.
They were sending the house. Sean Payton was not sitting back and saying, do what you want. He was saying, no, go after them. And call it what you want. He handled it very well. That 3rd and 1 play to Cedric Wilson, where he goes up and makes a check at the line. I don't even know what this means personally, but it did this. And gets you into a play, a kind of a man beater play where you can get the ball out quick, get it to Cedric, let him go. Did you see that throughout the course of the game? Did you see those checks being made at the line of scrimmage to get into the right play in the right moment for a big gain against the defense that was going to do something very specific to you? Right? No, you didn't see that. You didn't see the calmness in those situations. That touchdown to Cedric, be the protection held up. It's yeah, but he also got the ball out in 2.4 to a wide open receiver in a spot where he could run into the end zone, right? The ball was out on time, on target. The protection was where it needed to be. He trusted, stayed in the pocket, delivered the ball. You can say, hey, it's garbage time, it's whatever. Garbage time in that game started in the fourth quarter. The first play of the fourth quarter was garbage time. If you're going to tell me that those two drives were garbage time, then what was 8:21 left when you got the ball at the Denver 48 down 26-3? That wasn't garbage time. At 6:10 remaining, when you got the ball at the Denver 47 and you fumbled and it ended up being 33-3, was that not garbage time? So I'm not telling you to be overly critical of Spencer Rattler, but don't look at that drive from Jake Haener and pretend there was no value to it, because he went in there cold off the bench and ran the offense, the same offense with no playmakers, and went for 11 plays, 69 yards, and a touchdown. Like, that's not nothing.
Yeah, I hope fans aren't writing that off. That's the case on
they-
the
well,
socials?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say this: the social media, whirlwind has been negative against Jake.
No, it's the people who like Spencer better and
You
are
can say
willing
nothing
to-
wrong about him.
like
right.
has nothing to like. It's not about being a fan of the team. It's about being a fan of the quarterback. And I understand, like, you like the quarterback, so you're going to ignore what you watched. But like, after watching a game with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 offensive drives, the only one of which was successful required a 4th down play from your own 30-yard line. And then the 12th drive of that game was 11 plays, 69 yards for a touchdown. Like, these guys were very even in the preseason. I know people don't believe that, but like,
Right.
they were. And again, at a certain point, you look at Spencer and you're saying, are we ruining his confidence in a situation that is not benefiting him? And I'm starting to think the answer might be yes. And you have 10 days. You're going to look at it and you're going to decide, hey, who gives us a best chance to win against the Chargers? And I'm not even saying you should change quarterbacks, but I'm saying, like, what Jake was able to do coming off the bench, you have to give him credit for.
Yeah, and obviously the thing with Rattler too, you're putting him in these scenarios. Obviously, Haener's in the same thing, but when you look at the O-line and now the wide receivers that are out, not ideal for these young guys being in the game. But yeah, this is what you're dealt with right now, and it's curious that I thought it was kind of telling when I think Dennis Allen was asked in post game about next week coming up with Taysom Hill and Derek Carr, and it was like I think he alluded to Taysom's got a better chance of playing than Derek.
Yeah, saying that is pretty indicative that, like, you're going
Yeah.
to see one more week at least of one of these backups. And so, I don't know. I wouldn't hate seeing what Jake has to offer.
He's definitely earned that for sure. And like you said, it was a dead heat in camp, as much as maybe some folks don't want to consider that.
Right. And I mean, like, so like, what do you like, if the idea was, hey, Spencer's going to go in there and ball out to the level that's like, you're going to give him the job. We're past that point. Like,
Right.
So what it was, so, okay, you got 2 games of tape of Spencer, you bypassed Jake for him, and you made a statement saying, hey, we believe this guy has what it takes. So maybe that's too much. Maybe you're just like, hey, we're going to let this play out. But at the same time, like, hey, if you were being honest and you truly believe that Jake could be that guy too, what's the harm in giving him a shot is my point. And it's, I don't know. This is what DA said. And I think he handled this reasonably well when he was asked about it, about that final drive by Jake and the Rattler's day in general.
Okay, that was good to see. I think I certainly wouldn't put all this on Spencer Rattler for sure. I mean, I think there's a supporting cast around him that has to play better. But look, I think we'll evaluate the tape. We'll look at it and see what we think we need to do, and then we'll have a plan moving forward.
Yeah, and again, it's not all on Rattler, right? But that's kind of like, hey, you have a rookie quarterback here, and you have to be careful about it. Like, because and maybe benching him is the worst thing you could do. Maybe that would end up taking away all that confidence too. You have to think about it. You have to consider it. But either way, that's kind of where you're at.
Yeah, I almost feel like you had a 2-game run with Rattler, and if 2A, 2B at quarterback was Haener and him, why not give Haener a shot right now? What I mean, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? You need some kind of something to try and get this team rolling, and maybe Haener can come in. I did think he was able to hang in the pocket a lot more and didn't get as rattled and hung in there, made the throw in the face of, like you mentioned, they were coming after him hard at the end.
There's 7 guys on that pressure.
He hung in and made that throw. So kudos to him. And yeah, I'm just with about anything we can get points on the board with this offense, considering what we saw early on. And it just seems like it's a shell of that right now.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, again, the defense did not play even remotely good enough for you to go win that game. But if you don't put up more than 3 points, your defense could have dominated that game. You're still not going to win it. So like, it's about, okay, who gives you the best chance to go score some points and give yourself a chance to win?
Try it
And
out.
right now, you have to make that decision. And that's why, like, you've seen this Saints team over the past decade plus have veteran backups. This is the first time that I can recall them going with a young player. Like, the most recent one was Ian Book, and he was the third stringer. Danny Werfel back in 1997 was the most recent rookie starter before that. So, like, there's a reason the Saints try to avoid these scenarios, because this is what happens when you turn to a rookie, is they struggle. As much as I try to explain that to people, no one ever believes me.
That was something I was thinking about last night. Sean Payton is known as this QB guru, and you look at, what was
He's
it?
Never done it.
Garrett Grayson, Ian Book, now with Bo Nix. You look at these young talents, and I'm like, I don't know, dude.
He gets a lot of credit because of Drew Brees, but Drew kind of came prepackaged. Like Drew was ready on his own. It's not like Drew showed up in 2006 and Sean was like, actually, here's how you play quarterback. Now, they worked really well together, but that's not the same as developing a rookie quarterback. And we'll see with Bo. Maybe Bo turns into something, but I was not impressed. Like, they won that game in spite of Bo.
Yeah, sorry, like that the funny video meme gif, what do you want to say? He's not that guy. I'm sorry. Anyway. With the accuracy issues, for sure. I know he's got tons of skill and all, but you saw some wide open throws that the Saints defense definitely benefited from. And if you had a veteran in there, like you mentioned with a Stidham, there might have been 40, 50 points in this game.
The first drive of the game, I think it was first down. He had two guys wide open, and it's like he couldn't decide which one to throw to, and he just like threw in between them. He somehow, it's not often you see someone overthrow a guy and underthrow a guy on the same play.
Yeah, I was feeling good at that point. Obviously, I'm like, oh, we're going to smoke these dudes.
I wasn't, because I was like, oh, he's going to hit that throw eventually. I don't know how many tries it's going to take, but he'll do it eventually. Anyway, okay, so I mentioned this. I do want to play. So I asked Demario Davis, because he was around in 21. That was the last time he had a 5-game losing streak. And I asked him, like, does this feel similar? And it's not even, he didn't really answer that question, but he did give me an answer, which sounded very similar to what Spencer described as his speech in the locker room. And so I think this is kind of your marching orders. This is what you're going to rally around. So I want to play it so people have an idea of what we're talking about. Here you go.
21 is the last time we had a 5-game losing streak. Does this feel similar? It feels like, quarterback injuries then too. And how did you kind of fight back at that point?
Yeah, honestly, like if you're talking about 21, I can't remember specifically how 21 played out, except for our team was resilient. And like I said, I said it earlier, we faced adversity before. And so I was here for that, and I know that our team finished strong when maybe a lot of people thought we wouldn't. And so I think that's just reflective of the character of this organization, is we're always going to be resilient. Like at the end of the game, you're going to always see us fight, no matter what the scoreboard is. And I think that's reflective of the players in the locker room. I think it's reflective of the coaches. And, nobody likes a bad result. Nobody. I don't think a person that would look at and not get the results they want and be like, hooray. Nobody, not one human being. And I think, especially in sports, athletes want to win. Coaches want to win. But winning is hard. It's very hard to do. But how are you going to respond when you don't get the results you want? Are you going to mope? Are you going to blame somebody else? Are you going to let other people's opinion dictate how you respond? Oh, you can't. You can't. You have to trust your process. You have to trust the people that were with you. You have to stay loyal. You have to stay with the people in the boat, because you win together, you lose together. And as long as you can stay united and make it through the other side of the storm, because one thing about storms, they're going to always pass. Just like the storm passed in 21 or any other time, they always pass. And what you're going to look back on is going to be, how did I handle myself when I was in that storm? And I think that's what I want to be proud of myself. That's what I want to be proud of my teammates. That's what I want to be proud of the organization, that we respond the right way when we're in adversity. And we're being challenged. This isn't comfortable for anybody. Anybody that's attached with being an organization, a part of the organization, our fans are unbelievable. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable for nobody. But we're going through it. And what are we going to do? We're just going to keep taking steps forward. We're going to control what we control, trust our process, on rinse, wash, repeat, figure out how to fix what needs to change so that we can find a way to pull ourselves out of this hole, one step at a time.
Yeah. And so, like, again, he didn't really answer my question, but I genuinely think like he was just rehearsing for what he was about to go say to the team, or that's what he said to the team, and he was just telling it to me, because that's very much because the Spencer, when he went to the podium, was like, yeah, DeMario just told us, like, you're talking about, yeah, we're in the storm right now, I got to get through it. That was funny. But that's kind of like, that's I think DeMario, it's funny, we haven't talked to him after a game yet, and I think it's because it was a Thursday. He doesn't like to talk on Sundays. The Lord's Day.
The thing with DeMario too, unfortunately, is like him and Cam seem to got a lot older from last season. Well, Cam had struggled last year with injuries, but DeMario's had a rough year. You talk about missed tackles. He's been a culprit.
He had a couple of missed tackles in this game. I think they're just asking him to do too much too. Like, he's like, you're asking, like, how many times are you seeing DeMario try to make tackles on the sideline? Like, right. That's the thing. Like, he's the middle linebacker. He's in the middle. He's supposed to take care of the middle of the field, but constantly he's the only one that has a chance to make a tackle at the sideline. There's other guys. He's not the guy who's supposed to be over there. Like, you don't want to constantly ask your middle linebacker to run to the edge of the field. I think the Saints need to blitz more. They came into the game one of the lowest blitz rate teams in the league. I think they were at like 21%. But when they were able to generate some positive results in this game, it was through the blitz. So, like, I know DA doesn't like to be that kind of heavy blitz team, but if you can't get the quarterback to the ground, you got to at least affect him negatively. And it's not going to help you in the run game, but you got to do something. You got to add pressure somehow. So we'll see. But either way, that was what DeMario said. Anything else you want to hit before we move on to the mailbag?
No, I guess shout out to Group E making all his kicks. I don't know. Yeah,
all two.
Yeah, all two kicks. You're trying to look at any positives from this game. There definitely wasn't many.
No, I don't have any more. I don't have any more. Willie Gay punched the ball out. I'll give him that. Oh, and Drew. We should give Drew a step because he got his chant done.
Definitely went off better than I thought it would.
The only thing that went right in that game, Drew got his halftime chant, which still is dumb. Houdat would have been better, but he already led the Houdat pregame. So,
yeah, he's like, I got to do a different chant.
You got to stop invite. Like, Drew, I know you like to be in the dome. Makes you feel like you're part of the team. You got introduced like you were a starter, but they don't play well when you're there, man.
No, I know that's been a thing going around for sure.
They have not won a game since that he's been there for since he retired, and obviously they won games when he was there as a player, but and they haven't been close. They've all been blowout, or I guess that's not true. Like the Eagles game was close, but it wasn't a good game. Like they don't play well when you're there. Like a lot, you think like, oh, it's like a avatar, like a token. It's like, oh man, they're gonna play well for Drew. They don't play well for Drew. I feel bad for him.
Yeah, the one pick of Drew though in the sideline, you see has that frown about it. It's like I feel you, man. I totally feel you.
I mean, like the fact that he was able to go out there at halftime with the energy he was. Anyway, but all right, let's wrap this up. Come back, do the mailbag, and then it's Friday. You're gonna enjoy our weekend. Again, the Saints can't hurt you. I said that last segment. I'm gonna say it again. Enjoy your weekend. Watch some football. The Saints can't hurt you.
I'm gonna finish watching Parks and Rec. I think I'm not watching any football.
That's fair. My wife. The funny thing is when you do this for long enough, your significant others will start to plan your own mini buy for you. It's like oh, there's a bye week. What? But when's the mini buy? Right. So I was talking to Luke Johnson about this. Like he was like, yeah, his wife was like, all right, I'm going out of town. And so Claire did the opposite. Claire invited her cousin and her husband to visit us. So we have house guests for the weekend. And because she was like, oh, he can be here. So this is when we'll do it. So that's I'm going to force them to watch football with me. But
I'm going to say, I hope you get along with them because obviously entertaining on a mini bike can be kind of rough.
Better than watching the Saints play.
Ouch.
Yeah. Harsh, not really, not harsh enough. Anyway, all right, who dat? Subscribe. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back here on Inside Blackpool. Thanks for hanging out. A lot of comments in there. I got through all of them this time. I got a head start during that DeMario answer. That's part of the reason I played a 2-minute clip from DeMario, so I could start going through and starting comment.
You.
But there's going to be a lot more. I'll try to get through as many of these. I don't even know if I'll be able to get through them. I have 40 starred comments here. It's not even all the back and forth, like just 40 that I starred to get to. So we'll see if I can get through as many as I can. But the first one is from Weinesberger. Really early on, says Richard Sherman was spot on. And again, that's the thing. The players can disagree with him, and they will. The players kind of have their own thing. It's like they're not going to agree with anyone who questions their effort. The coaches are not going to agree with anyone who questions effort. But the fact of the matter is, you are putting forth a performance where the logical solution, the Occam's razor answer, is they are not putting forth the effort. One of two things has to be true. Either they're good enough and they're not playing hard enough, or they're playing as hard as they can and they're not good enough. Which would you prefer? Because neither answer is a good one.
Flat out saying they're playing like they want their coach to get fired. I mean,
that's the part of it that I don't agree with. Like, I don't think that they're out there trying to get the coach fired, right? Because no one wants to put out bad tape. Like, this tape doesn't go away. You're trying to sign contracts, you're trying to do whatever.
But I think like when you start questioning effort, though, that's obviously a thing. It comes back to the coach.
Yeah, no, like poor effort can get a coach fired, but the part of it I disagree with is the idea that they are intentionally playing with low effort because they want the coach fired. I don't think that's the case. Now, might be demoralized because of injuries, because it's just not going your way, and throughout that's what happened in the fourth quarter against the Bucs. They were demoralized. They just had nothing. Whereas,
there's no one going, what can I do to get Dennis fired?
Exactly. There's a difference between that and a coup of but at the end, at a certain point, it doesn't matter. There is no difference because the result's going to be the same. Right. So,
who cares about results, right?
If he says that again this week, it's going to be a problem. All right.
Poor Mike has to, do the Saints hour with him.
He's just lucky. He's not going to talk to Bobby this week. DA 992 RES says DA has been poor. No more sugarcoating it. Mickey Loomis needs to look in the mirror. That's the thing. That's honestly, I can understand what DA was or what Mickey was saying there. Like, you have to you have to have a wider view of you're angry right now, and I get it. But at the end of the day, it is a results-based league. Like, you don't look at the standings from 2021 and say, yeah, but all those 5 losses, you didn't have Drew, you were, or Jameis, you were playing Trevor Simmons. It's like, no, at the end of the day, it's a 9-8 season. You missed the playoffs, right?
That's it. Bottom line.
You don't look at 23 and be like, well, if Derek Carr hadn't, sprained his shoulder in week 3, it's like, no, you went 9-8, you missed the playoffs. At the end of the day, that's the result. That's who you are. And I don't even need to go through DA's record. Y'all know it. He's a losing head coach.
Oh, they like to bring up last night too. I think, what is it? His primetime record was abysmal as well.
Well, I mean, like, look at yes, like Thursday night football alone. Like, what?
1-7 now, 1-8.
Who did the
like
Saints
that?
play on Thursday night football in 22? I can't remember.
22. Oh, Arizona. No.
It was Arizona. Yeah. So
That's the famous Andy Dalton, the gif of the guy jumping in the end zone.
Yes. Marco Wilson, the shoe thrower. So
Oh man.
So just look at the Thursday night football results, which is Arizona in 22. You lost that game 42-34. Anyone who was there for that game knows it was not a one-score game. That was a blowout. That was the 3 interceptions in the first half. Keep doing what you're doing game. Last year, Jaguars, week 7.
Ugh.
We literally had 2 week 7 Thursday night football games. Actually, I didn't even realize this. The Saints have played on Thursday night football in week 7 3 years in a row.
It's a thing, huh?
That's so weird. I didn't realize that. So they had week 7 in 2022. You lost to the Cardinals on the road. Week 7 against the Jags last year. You lost to the Jags, and you got kind of blown out in the first half. You did turn it into a game. That was the Foster Moreau drop game. So it wasn't as, it was still not a good game, but it was a closer game than some of these other ones have been. And then this one, so 33-10. So, like, just look at the Thursday record. And here's, okay, and this is what Alvin said about the energy. And this is what I said going in. Like, Thursday night football is most often about, like, who wants it more. No one's feeling good. No one's ready. Oh, and you had another Thursday game against the Rams.
Oh, they had to travel out to LA, right?
And you got blown out in that game. So these are 4 Thursday night games. And again, I see Thursday night football as not a game planning game. It's a want to game. It's an energy game. And if you don't believe me, this is what Alvin said when he was asked a very similar question.
Getting healthy fix what's wrong with this team?
I think getting healthy makes us feel better. I don't think it's gonna be just the ultimate fix. Because there's things that we got to do better. We shoot ourselves in the foot. I don't think we're playing with a lot of detail. I don't think we're playing with a lot of energy. Like, Thursday night football is one of those, more than any other Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night football, you got to come out with energy. The team that comes out with energy and the team that comes out with, because we both played on Sunday. You got 3 days to recover and you got a game. The team that comes out with and just puts their mind in a place where, like, shoot, it's Thursday. We know it's a short week. We just got to go play. The team that can do that, I mean, that's the team that's the team that's gonna win. And we ain't do. I don't think we did it today. I think we came out flat. I think we came out. I think we just came out and it was a Thursday. It was a Thursday and we had a game. It wasn't Thursday night football.
It wasn't Thursday night football. It was just a Thursday. And to me, like, if you want, like, you can come up with all these stats, all these numbers to say, like, hey, DA ain't got it. DA is not the coach. I think, like, those games are so much about, okay, can you motivate your team? Can you get your team to grit through it? They're hurt. They're sore. There's no way they're recovered from last week. You don't have time to game plan. You just got to go out there and go win a football game. Go play hard and be the team with the most energy. Be the team that wants it more. And it seems like every time the Saints end up on a Thursday, same thing happens. Like, there is a trend in all 4 of those games, and it is not a good trend.
It's definitely you think, though, it's like, how can you come out flat for this one? Obviously a primetime game, you're home, you've been in a skid. Sean Payton's back in town. Drew Brees is getting inducted into the Team Hall of Fame. How do you come out listless?
If you can't get up for this game,
I don't know. Right.
Like, I can understand Arizona, you travel out west, even the Rams game, you travel out west on a short week. That's tough for anybody. Like, it's a schedule loss at the end of the day. But like, you're at home. Like, this is a game that you've had circled on your calendar
Forever.
like, that's inexcusable, man. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Brandon Higgins says rookie left tackle, fourth starting left guard, fourth starting center, third or fourth starting right guard, and Penning at right tackle. What else is there to say? No, I mean, here's the thing, and there was somebody that said like, oh, Derek Carr, everyone was healthy and he didn't do. He was bad. I'm not even sure where it was. I think I did.
Isn't it talking with the quarterback thing? Derek Carr can do no wrong, no right, and Spencer Rattler can do no wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, Derek, you saw him play really well when the team was healthy, and you saw him deal with the same level of injuries. At least maybe not to the wide receivers, but to the offensive line, and it didn't look this bad. So, like, again, like, you might not like Derek Carr. You might say like, hey, I'd rather go the rookie and let him develop and do whatever. But this is the type of game on offense that I think Derek protects you from, right? Like, your baseline's going to be higher. You're going to score something. Like, even against the Chiefs, like, things didn't go particularly well, but you at least had a couple drives that you could look at and say, hey, you gave yourself, if the defense played lights out, maybe you had a chance to win this game. You haven't seen that. So I don't know. Like, the injuries are a problem, no question. But like Derek, Spencer, and Jake all played behind similar offensive lines over the last 3 weeks.
It's just nothing's been pretty for sure.
Yeah. Blankman J5 says, I have brown paper bags for everyone. LOL. The Saints is the new mud dogs. They need the water boy. The SLSS South Louisiana South Central Louisiana State University, I think, is the school in that movie. By Bobby Boucher. But yeah, I mean, I think Bobby Hebert put it well when he said, yeah, this is like, you were back to like pre-Katrina levels of Saintsdom. Like, this is what it feels like. This is like Jim Haslett, Mike Ditka. Like, the problem is you've won a Super Bowl. Like, your expectations are higher. But that's what this is. You are 2004, 2005 range of like misery. And I don't think you're paper bag level, but it's hard to see a scenario where it gets better.
Yeah, Bobby actually got mad about that last night on the post-game show. He's like, the paper bag should be gone away forever, because he says once you win a Super Bowl, you're not a laughing stock organization anymore.
Right. Like, the paper bags are funny because it's the Aints and whatever. Like, and you're in territory similar, but you will never be as low as you were when there were paper bags on.
You're not the Browns, for crying out loud.
At least the Browns saved you from yourself, and we're not talking about Deshaun Watson right now. Like, that would be worse. And like the Devontae Adams trade, thank goodness they didn't do anything stupid there. Because right now it's like the best thing you have going for you is if you do end up going in the tank, and this team isn't going to intentionally tank, but if you do end up with a abysmal record, like a top 5 record, you got most of your picks. So you're going to be getting quality players. You're going to get a high first rounder. You're going to get a high second rounder. Maybe, I had someone commented, hey, get rid of Chase Young. Just let him leave. I think I was talking, I can't remember who I was talking to. It might have been Kat Terrell from ESPN. Like, she was talking about how, she had to put a column out that was like, okay, if there's a hypothetical trade target for this team, who would it be? And prior to yesterday, it would have been Paulson Adebo on a contract year, guy who could probably show up and play some solid man-to-man defense. He's not that anymore. So who is it? I think if you had to pick a trade option on this team right now, it would probably be Chase Young. Like, if you're getting to the end of the year and this season is lost and you're at the trade deadline, not unlike Washington last year, and there's a contender who's like, I need some pass rush help. Is he the top option? Probably not. But can I get him for cheap? Maybe a fourth.
Not many pass rushers out there, right?
Right. You're not adding a lot of pass rushers mid-season. And the issue with adding a lot of guys is you're talking about, how do we handle that contract? Because contending teams don't have a ton of cap space. Well, Chase Young's on a 1-year deal with so you'll be able to get out of it if it doesn't work. And, we've seen him. He slotted into the 49ers. They went to the Super Bowl. He had a sack in the Super Bowl. So if you're a team that maybe you lose a pass rusher mid-season and the Saints are like, well, we're not going to re-sign him. Man, you can add an extra mid-round pick, an extra early day 3 pick.
I do agree too with the last two commenters saying Lattimore would be a target too. I think for teams.
That contract is so. That's my point. Is like that contract
right.
is so difficult to trade that like a lot of teams might not even be able to manage it in the moment. And you're talking about an older player like Chase Young is still young in his prime. Like if he went there and balled out and you liked it, like teams will trick themselves into thinking like even though the 49ers didn't do it, even though the Saints didn't do it, maybe why not us, right? So I'm just saying like if you're in a scenario where the Saints are trying to sell off some pieces, right? Kind of get into fire sale mode. They're not your traditional team. The way they manage their contracts, a lot of these guys you can't just trade. You can't just say like, ship this guy off. Because teams aren't going to just accept those contracts. So Chase Young becomes, and you're not going to do it with young players either. Like those are the other, literal young players, not the name young, literal young players who, you probably fact like an Alontae Taylor. You're not trading him. Kool-Aid McKinstry, you're not trading him. Those are the contracts other teams are going to want. So yeah, I just think that's like, we're going to end up having that conversation. Like who's the trade options if this gets going a certain way? And I just think Chase is going to be one of those guys that teams might call about.
Yeah, the problem too, I think with Lattimore, obviously the ship sale too of getting any kind of value for him.
We'll see. I mean, I think he's been playing reasonably well. So
right,
like it's just that contract that becomes difficult. But maybe a team ends up desperate and they feel like, hey, we are one cornerback away from winning a Super Bowl, and they pull the trigger. Either way, like he's not. If I was a team, I'm just saying, like if I had to put a list together right now, Chase would be at the top. Marshawn would probably be on that list too. Like AK is tough. Like that contract is brutal to try to navigate if you're another team.
Yeah, what's sad is now like you don't even feel like another team would be like, oh, we need that one piece on the line. Let's add that veteran like a Cam Jordan. I just don't see that happening either.
Again, a contract that no one wants.
Right.
Francisco Pomar, always super negative, but whatever. It's a good time for it. He says, instead of making shows about fire Dennis Allen, you should be making shows about the top candidates to go after in the coaching position. Belichick, Gruden, who's out there. It might help Loomis. I'm not doing that right now. Like, come on. Because at the end of the day, it's like that's going to be decided by what coaches are fired, what opportunities are available, and who's out there. So
why does everybody go back to John Gruden?
Huh?
Why?
He does a lot. He's got a pretty good YouTube following now. I don't know. Here's why, and I'll get into this briefly, but because if you fire DA, right?
Yeah,
you're not in a position where you can just move off of Derek Carr. So if you did have to bring someone in and say, hey, will you be willing to have Derek Carr be your starting quarterback? That's the guy. Now, a lot of coaches probably you'd be like, hey, you want this job? We're going to saddle you with a 30-something-year-old quarterback who's never won a playoff game. And this is your chance to really kind of make your name like a young. Think of like an offensive coordinator who's trying to step into a head coaching role for the first time. Is that what they want to be saddled with? Probably not. They want to do their own thing. So that's the one scenario where I think, okay, maybe Gruden would make sense.
Obviously, a lot of baggage there, and I don't know if he really is still hireable.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they should do it. I'm not saying that's even a scenario we need to go down. I'm just saying like that's if I had to apply logic to it and why that might happen. He's
always at the top of the list when the Saints are mentioned, and I guess maybe it is the Derek Carr deal.
That's my antenna for it. But that's it. That's all I'm going. Robin Segari says, feel bad for Rattler. Hope they're not destroying his confidence. I still think he's the future. And yeah, to me, that's the biggest question. It's like, are you doing him a disservice by continuing to have him in there and getting teed off on? And that's the question they're going to have to answer over the next 10 days. Francisco says, I hope they give Haener a shot this week. I think there's the agenda, right? Like no matter what happens, you're going to hear people saying like, play Spencer. I don't care.
Yeah.
He's the future. Sure.
You were down there. Did you see him hobbling it off? Because it seemed like at the end of the game, he wasn't not right.
He was. And I don't know exactly when it happened, but the last couple plays, that scramble that he had late in the game, you could kind of see it. Like if you go and watch the replay, you could see his eyes. Oh, I can get to the sideline. I can stop the clock. And then at some point he was just like, nope, I am going to go down because I don't want to get hit. And it's not worth it. And he's right. It was not worth it. But like, I think that's kind of where you could see like, yeah, that hip is not good. he got sacked 6 times in that game. Like for
He got
perspective.
roughed up.
And like I see people saying like, Derek Carr would have got sacked all the time in that game too. No, like again, I cannot stress this enough. One of the best qualities of Derek is he gets the ball out fast. He does not take unnecessary sacks unless it's like a 3rd down and long and he's trying to make something happen. And yeah, he'll hold the ball too long. But that's the part of it that never made sense to me is like, oh, he holds the ball. Derek got sacked 5 times total in the 4 games he played in. 5 games he played in. I'm sorry, week 5. So he got through a majority of the Kansas City game. So over the course of his 5 games, he got sacked 5 times. In the course of that one game, Spencer got sacked 6 times. Do you really think that that's all a product of the offensive line and has nothing to do with the quarterback? Because if you do, then that's just a good example of like, I have an agenda that is support Spencer Rattler, and I am not going to consider any negativity as being valid in terms of like any criticism where he needs to be better here, right? Because taking sacks does have to do with the quarterback. It also has to do with the line. It has to do with a lot. But one of the reasons he didn't finish that game is because he was getting teed off on and he was beat up. And that's what happens when you get sacked 6 times in a game, right? The same criticism I have of Daniel Jones. Like Daniel Jones, he gets sacked a ton. A big part of that is you got to protect yourself. Like you got to manage the protection, and you got to get the ball out of your hand. He also ran for 28 yards in that game. Like he had a nice run. So the mobility is a benefit, but you got to balance that.
No, he took
right now the balance is off.
There were like at least 2 that come to mind. I can remember like he got plowed pretty good.
He did. He got hit. And you give him credit. He hung in there. He's a tough guy. And he knows what it's like to play behind a bad offensive line. He's going to hang in there. He's going to take hits. There was the 2 turnovers in this game were kind of the bad end of that. Like, taking hits is great, but you got to get the ball out. You cannot allow that ball to get stripped on you, especially when it happened twice in that same game. Like I would say like some of the turnovers in that game were not necessarily in the first week. I wouldn't say like the turnovers were completely like, hey, this bad quarterback play. I'd say the two turnovers in this game were just not good quarterback play. So it is what it is. Blankman J5 says AK interview said a lot what he was going on in the locker room. Yeah, I mean he did say a lot. He was asked like, okay, what's the vibe in the locker room right now? This is what he said.
I mean, guys are tired of losing. Frustrated. I can't speak for everybody and say concerned, but definitely frustrated. You don't want to win. You do that. I mean, you don't want to lose. You do this to win. Everybody's in here to win. And when you're not doing that, it's tough. But, I think we got some good leaders in here, and the messaging is always going to be to keep your head up. And, we all men in here. We all know what the job calls for. And, you go through adversity. You got to figure out a way to dig yourself up out of a hole when you're in a hole. I don't think there's I don't think there's any guys in here that's gonna lay down player wise. You know what I'm saying? That's because I suit up with these dudes. I sweat with these dudes, bleed with these dudes. So I don't think it's anybody that's gonna lay down. But I think it's a lot of things that we got to figure out to be able to succeed.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, it's the same exact tone that Alvin had last year, right? And that's not a good thing. Like even was asked like, hey, is this kind of sounds like a copy and paste answer from like some of these games last year, and it is. Like that's just what it's been. And you love.
It's funny you say that there because I thought too. I was like, did DeMario make that Storm comment last year?
DeMario has a lot. He has some. He has some go-to. Wordplay usages, and if he probably did, I mean, that's it's a kind of like a preacher thing. Like we've seen that from DeMario. He's really good at going up there and kind of giving a sermon, and I think it's worked in the past. I'm not sure if it's working right now.
Not a lot's working right.
Yeah. KD says I counted on one play. Bo Nix legit had 11 seconds in the pocket. And then he probably threw the ball into the dirt. Julius Rickles says, I'm going to call Harbaugh and see if he will let me run for 200 versus the Saints.
Right. Might as well, right.
Hey, as good a chance as anybody.
If J.K. Dobbins is out there, I highly doubt it. Pick him up.
KD, after Honey Badger dropped that pick, I officially knew it was over. Yeah, that was there was a moment there where you could have been like, oh, this is the momentum, right? Like, and it's the same thing that happened, against the Bucks. It was like, hey, like you have a chance to kind of get a shutdown drive here and build some momentum, and you can't do it. And that the points before halftime, I don't think 16-3 versus 13-3 would have made a difference. But hey, what if he picks that off and runs it back to a touchdown? Suddenly it's 13-10. You get the ball after halftime. The Broncos are on their heels. Maybe that game changes. I don't know. It was a bad moment. All right, we're getting down toward the end here.
That's what I was saying. You definitely got to think that there's some kind of curse on the team right now between the injuries and a play like that. It's like, how the hell does that happen to Tyron?
It's just when it rains, it pours, right? Like he's had so many interceptions in his career. It's like what do you like?
One was just gift wrap to him right there.
Colorado Adventures with Marco, which is quite a name, says suck in 2025 and draft Manning in 2026. Deal. Saw some guys say draft Shadur. I do not think Shadur is going to be a good pro.
I'm just wondering, is Colorado Adventures? I'm thinking about like whitewater rafting right now.
I was expecting them to say draft Shadur in Colorado. We'll see. I'm interested to see how the draft process goes for him. Because I don't know, like we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
There you go. They'll be like fire DA, draft Shadur, and get Dion on board.
Well, my issue with Travis Hunter is like people are like, draft Travis because he can play cornerback and wide receiver. And it's like, okay, I get it. He can do both. But can he do both at an NFL level? And can he do one of them at an NFL level? Like, it's great that you're good enough to play both ways in college, but are you good enough to play either way in the NFL? Because you're not playing both ways in the NFL. It's just not going to happen. You got to be better at one. So which one is it? Anyway. I don't think Travis Hunter is going to get drafted in the top 5 because he can play both ways. You need to be a top 5 wide receiver or cornerback to get drafted in the top 5. And that's what I think people are not keeping in mind.
Dion Shadur to New Orleans. Make it happen.
That would be a show. I'm not kidding. They would literally do a show about it.
Hard Knocks, here we come, right?
I mean, he probably wouldn't even do Hard Knocks. He'd be like, I'm going to have my own in HBO special. Because he already does, doesn't he? Doesn't he have his own show, like Prime?
I don't know if he still does or not, but I think
on
you're right,
Prime.
yeah.
Is it like it would make sense if it was on Prime?
Prime on Prime.
Prime on Prime. That would be if there isn't a show named Prime on Prime. What are they doing? Bordeley says, guys, you're too focused on the results. You have to look past them.
We're trying.
What a ridiculous thing to say.
At least he wasn't chewing gum.
Yeah, it's true. Julius Rickle says, fire everyone and build her on Hayball and Kendre. It was builder on Hayball last week, so he's added Kendre to his list. This is my favorite criticism: is be weary of Saints media allowed in their building because they can't piss them off. Yes, you are way better trusting the assessment of folks who have never ever had to have a conversation with the people they're talking shit about. That means that they know what they're talking about.
Oh, you think this is about like the Sherman comment?
No. People think because like we have press passes we're not allowed to criticize the team. Like, I don't know what you think I've been doing for 90 minutes, but like there's this idea that like, oh, if you live in Chicago or South Carolina and you host a podcast, you're getting the real information. That's how you know it's true.
I guess, yeah. If you say something off base, they're going to shut you out or, not grant you interviews, whatever kind of thing. I guess they're thinking, but
I guess they think that, but like,
I think, yeah, we've been pretty fair and even keeled on things. We're not going to fly off the handle either way. Although after week 2 Dallas, I was definitely riding high and ready to get my Kubiak jersey. So
I don't even know if they sell Kubiak jerseys, but
I was going to get one.
I think what people mistake for being soft is like being fair, right? Like, yeah, it's a lot easier to talk shit about someone that you never have to answer for that take, and like do what you want to do. But like, if I'm having a take about a player, I better be willing to go stand in front of that player and answer for it. Like if that player says, "What the fuck?" and I'm standing there, can I stand 10 toes down on that take? Because if I, for 1 second, think, you know what, I can't, then I'm not going to have that take. It's a lot easier to have these hardline takes when you don't have to ever answer for them. And, like, again, I'm not trying to be like holier than thou. I'm not trying to be entitled about it. But if you're going to talk shit to me, like, I have no willingness to be critical of these players and these coaches in the midst of a 2-hour podcast where I've pretty much done nothing but be critical of the coaches and the players. Then I guess.
Well, you're not calling for heads, I guess. That's the problem.
I guess. Yeah. It's like people want you to go in there and be like, "Hey, what the fuck?"
This team right now, by the end of business today, Dennis Allen should be out of a job. That's what they want to hear.
Well, I mean, like, and I can say that, and like maybe I could say that, but at the same time, like, okay, do you want answers to the questions, or do you just want to yell at somebody? Because that's what you have to do. Like, if you want people to actually answer your questions, you have to ask it in a certain way, and you have to treat them like people. Imagine that. That's the thing. Anyway, KD says, and this will be the last one we get into because there's 70 new comments since I started all these comments, and I haven't even gone through all of them. Says, my question for the mailbag is 2 parts. When we tank, what position should we look at in round 1? And how would you feel about bringing Salah over as DC? I'm still stuck on who our head coach should be.
Do not draft a defensive end in the first round. That's all I'm begging, please.
It is interesting. And what position should we look at? That's I think like what draft position. I mean, if you're in the top 5 and you can go get a quarterback, I feel like you have to go get a quarterback. Like, as much as people love Spencer Rattler, there's a reason that top 5 quarterbacks get taken in the top 5, and you don't get that many opportunities to do it now. Based on how things have gone, maybe you will. God, I hope not. But that's if you're in position to take a top quarterback, you take a top quarterback.
I could have seen it be an offensive lineman.
It probably, I mean, it wouldn't hurt. I don't know. All right. Anyone else? CJ Hill says Desmond Rattler equals Spencer Ritter.
Ouch.
Rude.
That's really harsh.
That is harsh.
We haven't been that brutal for sure on Spence.
No, I like Spence. He's just struggling, and he's set up to struggle. He's set up to fail, and that's the worst thing you can do to a rookie quarterback is set them up to fail.
Well, you said bad things, so you immediately hate him now.
If I want to set somebody up to fail, I'd much rather it be Derek Carr. No, but I mean, because I think he has a better, he's done it. He understands what he has to do in those situations, and he's not, and you're not worried about, hey, does this guy have a chance to develop, or are we ruining him? If Derek's ruined, it happened long ago.
Yeah, you might as well try to ruin Jake too next week.
Oh, here's one more, and I just want to talk about this because I meant to mention. Julius Rickle says the kick return guy has some spark. Jermaine Jackson.
He did. That was a positive too.
I thought he looked good. The problem is he got a little too overexcited on some of these kick returns. Like, it was like the third one, he was like 8 yards back. It's like, guy, I get it. It's what you're here to do. I understand you're trying to impact the game. That's not it. We don't need to be starting drives at the 18 just because you wanted to see what you could do. Like, that was one. I'll admit, like, I was way off in the preseason on. I thought that the returners were going to have a way easier time generating big returns. At this point, you're actually foolish to kick it into the end zone because it seems like every time the ball gets kind of bounced inside the zone, like, as long as you can get that ball to bounce ahead of the returner so that they have to kind of delay, because the second the ball touches the ground, they can go. They don't have to wait for the player to touch it. So, like, if you can bounce it at like the 8 and force that guy to just kind of have to like catch it slow and flat-footed, like not on the run, the coverage is dominating. Like, it seems like you can stop them prior to the 30, I don't know, 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10. And even the long returns are like 35, 40. So, like, I think Darren Rizzi's going to get his wish. I think over the course of this season, you're going to see that kick return total go up, because teams are starting to figure out, like, wow, we can cover these way easier than we thought.
Yeah, and going back with Jermaine, I thought, decent showing considering he was obviously just pulled up, considering the Rashid Shaheed news, unfortunately.
We haven't even talked about Rashid Shaheed
Right.
on injured reserve. We went through all of this. We haven't even mentioned Rashid Shaheed. He's on injured reserve, full meniscus repair. He's done for the year.
More of that evil gree that's been put on this team.
We're not even halfway done.
Not even.
We're in week 8. We're still in week 7.
It's like another. I'll mention the Thanos gif of what it cost you. Everything at this point. What it cost you to bring in Kubiak. Everything.
It's just so demoralizing. Like, I understand. Like, and that's the thing. Demoralizing is the exact right word. The players look demoralized, and you can hear it in their voices. You can see it in their play. And it's like, I don't think it's about quitting. I think it's just about not feeling like you have a chance. And as a fan, as an analyst, as someone who's watching the games, I don't see a team that looks like they feel like they have a chance. And it's tough to get back from that. And I don't know how, maybe DeMario Davis can give you enough pregame hype speeches to get you on board and ready and hyped and going. But I'm sure he's given them already.
I just want to win again.
Again. 1, 2. Also, Hold DeMayo. I don't even know his name. I just know him as Hold DeMayo. That was one of the funniest edits I've seen in a long time, where he put the Drew Brees Instagram video, and he was like, 1, 2, win again. No, for you. Damn it. It's like, Drew, we're already stressed out enough.
Right. Like we said in the beginning, though, I think he pulled it off better than I imagined. And I was like, this is not going to go well.
Yeah, it was still one of the funnier social media. Like, all we have, laugh so you don't cry, right? Like, you just kind of gotta laugh through it. Otherwise, it's, too much. But all right.
Oh, the misery.
All right. It's Friday. I keep forgetting it's Friday. Steve.
Yeah.
Parting thoughts. Give me one.
I definitely need the mini bye. It's been a tough stretch the last 5 games, and there's a lot of people writing off the season already, and I understand.
Not Jim Mora.
At this point, I don't know what direction the team is going to go, because you're facing a stretch here where you should win a majority of these games before the bye week, but I just don't know who's going to be around to be on the field. I'm not talking coaches, and whatnot, but who's going to be healthy enough to play for this team anymore? The injury bug, plague, whatever you want to call it, has just been the worst I can remember, at least covering this team for a long time. And I've been around since the 2009 year, the year they went to the Super Bowl. So everything's been downhill since then.
If the injury thing is a bug, it's one of those bugs from Starship Troopers.
Right. Yes.
I'll tell you who's not quitting on the season. Jim Mora. He gave you like a reverse playoff rant.
Right. It was fiery about this season's not over.
I'm not trying to win a game. I'm trying to win all the games. I didn't think it was funny.
Just 10 left. 10 left.
Mini bye. I'm going to go make some mini bagels and do something with that. But all right. Who dat? Go Saints. Wake the F up. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out. There's still like 200 people in here. There's still so many comments. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to even half of them. But I, as always, appreciate y'all. At some point, we'll have to do just a full, just 3-hour mailbag and just only a mailbag. Like, we'll just start with a mailbag and finish with a mailbag.
Oh, you can do that after a game for sure.
Yeah, because like at this point, it's like we could have done 2 full podcasts with this. Not that we need them. It's already our 4th of the week, but thanks, everyone, as always. Thanks for anyone who's subscribed. If you haven't yet, please do that. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're here, find yourself here like often, if you've been here for, a majority of the 120 minutes we've been doing this, basically, like we're halfway through a Marvel movie right now, and you haven't subscribed yet, why not? How can you possibly hate watch that long? So hit that subscribe button. If you listen to podcasts on Apple, go do that. I hear from a lot of you. You can hit me up on Twitter at Jeff_Nowak, Steve at Steve Geller WWL. We'll keep doing it. We got some time off. I'm not sure how we're gonna set up our next week yet. I'll tweet out the schedule that we're planning for at some point over the weekend once we decide on it. But I'm gonna enjoy this weekend, so I hope y'all will as well. Who dat? Go Saints!
And like Payton told Alvin, get healthy. Everybody out there, please get healthy.
As Anthony Orgy says. Isn't that what he does? The horns? I don't even know what that is, but Hopefully I didn't offend anybody.
Great, Jeff. Thanks.
All right, we're done. Bye.
Bye.